please do not buy an iPhone 15. Now, I'm not trying to tell you exactly how to spend your money, but what I am trying to do is at least put you in a direction where that money that you are spending is actually going towards something of better value for you than something like the iPhone 15. Now, obviously, that's very subjective because a lot of people will think, oh, the USB-C port is this amazing godsend to the Apple ecosystem, when in reality, it's really not. Now, what I'm going to go through real quick is what they actually did as changes for this phone to kind of distinguish it from another. The first of which is a change in AI features, effectively just meaning that when you take a photo with your portraits, it will allow you to save that effectively, pretty much, and it allows you to mess around with it later on. Is it that useful? Possibly. Overall, is it? How many people are going to use it? Who knows? One thing I do know though, is that if you look at the actual spec difference between the iPhone 15 and 14 Pro, yeah, the 14 Pro could 100% do the exact same thing, however, it's just something that is locked behind a wall. That's it. It's not necessarily something that is a feature because only the iPhone 15s can do it. So it is just the case that it is locked behind a wall, so I wouldn't be surprised if eventually down the line some form of app gets made that basically allows you to do this already just with your iPhone 14. Now, the other big change that was announced was USB-C. Now, this was done to comply with regulation. So obviously, this was something that most people were starting to expect. Other people were obviously thinking there is a chance they may just go fully wireless, as that is the dream with Apple. However, they did choose to actually comply with regulation and go through with it and use USB-C charging. Now, if you do want my full thoughts about everything to do with the Apple event, make sure to go check out this video just above. It's basically just going to go through how I thought this event was a tad bit disappointing. I'll talk about the iPhone 15, 15 Pro, 15 Pro Max, the Series 9 and Apple Watch Ultra 2, and as well as that, their incredibly long-winded talk about how they're going for carbon neutrality. Now, is it all doom and gloom? No, definitely not. You can get an iPhone 15 if you want, but I'd probably say go for a 15 Pro or go for a 14 Pro Max, which I'm going to be talking about the comparison of that phone and the 15 in just a moment and why it is definitely the better option. But if you just wait, for example, 3 to 6 months, you'll probably be able to get a 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max for roughly the same price, if not maybe 50 to 100 pounds more expensive than an iPhone 15, and you get so much more value for money. So now let's actually talk about what the key differences are and why I'm recommending the 14 Pro over a 15. Now, the first place to start off with is going to be that charging port, the biggest announcement of the day. Obviously, USB-C, great thing. It's a great thing to be able to charge everything by one cable. However, I would probably actually say that most people didn't actually care about this. There is a reason why I say that, and I think some people may think that's heinous for me to say. However, outside of the tech community, I don't really see too many people complaining in their day-to-day lives that they have to use a lightning cable to charge their iPhone. I think they would have rather had lightning, but it charged faster than USB-C being changed over as a new thing when it's charging at the same speeds and does data transfers at the exact same rate. That is something that is really sad to see with this phone, because they could have brought it in and even gone down the lines of, we've changed over to USB-C. We are obviously not going to talk about the fact that it was EU regulated, because why would they within their marketing? They could have said though, we're bringing USB-C to the iPhone because we realized that lightning just wasn't allowing us to get the speeds that we wanted for your iPhone to be charged at an adequate rate. So instead, we now give you 40 watt charging or 30 watt charging, whatever it might be, so that we at least got something faster than just your typical 20 watt charger. So does it really matter? No, 100% it doesn't. Most people probably are perfectly fine with having to bring a USB-C to lightning cable with them on their travels. That small cable does not take up that much space in your bag that it is that big of a deal. So instead, let's actually move on to some other things. Instead of talking about how what they've brought to the iPhone 15 is something amazing or isn't actually of value, let's talk about what they didn't bring to the 15, because it's only reserved for the Pro models as of right now. So with the 14 Pro, you can go to a place like Back Market, which this video is not sponsored in any way by them. I don't have any affiliation with them. I'm just using them as an example. You can get a 14 Pro Max for anywhere between £40 less or £40 more depending on the actual version of the phone, so either a like new refurbished phone or one with scratches. You can get that for an 80-way margin, which is insane when you think about it, that you can get a phone that is objectively better, and I'm going to go through in a second exactly why. But yeah, Anywhere like that, Facebook Marketplace most likely, eBay's refurbished, even Apple's refurbished soon enough. But in regards to it, let's actually go through some of the key changes that are actually of value for choosing something like this phone right here. So one of the big ones for a lot of people would be the extra camera, because a lot of people buy their phone, they're going to be using it as their everyday sort of thing to take photos of and all that sort of thing. You obviously gain that extra telephoto camera. Now, do you end up actually losing anything of value in comparison to the, 15? No, you're not really ever going to be using that portrait mode anyway. But on top of that, on top of the actual camera itself, you also get a better display with 120Hz ProMotion display, which looks so much smoother, it is ridiculous. Obviously, for a lot of people, if you aren't used to 120, you're probably not going to actually notice the difference until you go from 120 to then going to a 60Hz display. But it is definitely noticeable when you get used to that 120. Everything looks so much better, but on top of that, if I just take my phone out of its case, you're going to see one of the nice things about the 14s, and I'll probably just show it on screen anyway. But with these, you end up getting, obviously, the stainless steel rails. What is actually amazing about this is that it means that when your phone drops, let's say it drops on a corner, which is typically a very bad place for a phone to drop. Anyone who's used a curved display phone, for example, will know this. Anyone who uses a phone with full glass covering the entire thing, you'll know this. That if your phone drops on the side, that's an extremely bad point to be dropping on, mainly because that is a lot of pressure on such a small surface that can lead to bigger cracks on your phone. That leads to the back of your phone being cracked, like my old Huawei phone did, or my old Samsung phone where it clipped the top edge and then the whole screen cracked along with the side of the phone cracking. It isn't a great thing. And with the basic 15, it's full glass all the way around, so it does mean that you do end up with those issues. With this, at least it's a little bit more protected. You also get the matte finish on the back, which personally I think looks a lot better. It's nowhere near as tacky as something like, the normal glossy look that they have with the basic phones. But then again, you also have another big feature that I think a lot of people would find value in, which is the battery life. Now, this is a 14 Pro Max, so I can only attest to what I've actually had as my personal use case. With this and a 13 Pro Max, I can have full day's charge ending with like 20%. For example, right now, I'm on 13% charge. It is 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I haven't charged this phone since, I believe, about maybe 8 AM yesterday, for about half an hour before having to take my girlfriend to work. So overall, amazing battery. And on the 14 Pro, they quote 23 hours of battery, which is, their general consensus of their overall battery consumption. However, I would probably say it is more than that if you are using light usage, but it will probably be around 18 hours if you are a heavy user on your phone. With a 15, it is 20 hours, so you do lose that 3-hour gap. So whether or not that is of value to you, obviously that's something to think about. But when you consider that you get a better screen, you get a better battery, you also get a better camera system, and on top of that, you get an overall better build quality, are those 4 things there worth changing over to USB-C that really doesn't give you much, and then on top of that, getting a portrait change? Does it really make too much of a actual impact on your life? Probably not. I'd probably assume that things like having a smoother display is going to have a better quality of life in comparison to having the 15. Having the battery be a little bit bigger will allow you to have a better quality of life instead of having to charge your phone up all the time. And on top of that, being able to have access to things like that build quality and as well the camera actually allows you to have more versatility and also more protection for your phone, that you're already paying out a lot of money for. So instead of spending £800 on an iPhone 15, you can spend around the same price and get a refurbished 14 Pro. In my opinion, this is absolute great value for money in comparison, or at least if you're comparing the last year's model to this year's model. But overall, that is something for you to decide. I'd probably say still to this day, I think the 13 Pro, or at least the 13 Pro Max, is the best value for money iPhone on the market. A couple extra things to say that this phone comes with that, the 15 doesn't. You get night mode portraits, you get Pro RAW, macro photos, and LiDAR scanners. Now, you do also get things like I believe it's something like 4K stuff. Basically, they're extremely good video quality. However, on the baseline models, and it's the reason why I'm not mentioning it properly, is that on the baseline models of these, so the 128 gigs, you don't get access to it, so it's kind of useless anyway. You only get access to it if you have the bigger phone. But yeah, Overall, if this is something that does interest you and you actually want to ensure that you are getting good value for money, make sure to stick around on the channel, as I do intend to kind of discuss those sorts of things. Even stuff like my MacBook right here. I don't know if that was in frame, but my MacBook is probably the best value for money Apple laptop as of right now, but they no longer sell it. You can only buy it refurbished, or you can buy it through retailers who still have it available. So if you do enjoy tech, productivity, or photography content, make sure to leave a like on this video and make sure to subscribe to see future videos coming up. This channel should be moving to 2 videos a week as of now. So this Saturday you're going to have an extra video. Normally I'm doing 1, now I'm doing 2. This Saturday you're going to have my unboxing and first thoughts on the iPhone 15 Pro, as I am downsizing to a smaller size. I'll probably talk about it in that video if you are interested, and I'll see you guys on Saturday for another video. Have a good one. I'll see you in the next one.